Thank you, Maureen. Next, we'll move on to approval of the minutes.
Okay, I would make a motion that we approve the special Board of Education meeting minutes, closed session of July 14th, the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of July 14th, and the special Board of Education meeting open and closed sessions of August 4th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the special Board of Education meeting closed session minutes of July 14th, the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of July 14th, and the special Board of Education meeting open and closed session meeting minutes of August 4th. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. I don't believe we have any comments tonight, do we, Maureen?
No.
Citizens? Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to our committee reports. John, business services?
Thanks, John. Yes, business services met on August 4th at 6:03 p.m. due to our tardiness from our previous meeting. And we have two consent agenda items. Does anybody want either one of them called out? If not, the first item we had on the docket was a good one, 66.03.01 cooperative agreement with Stevens Point to bring, I believe it was 17 students. Yes, 17 students into our virtual program. And we are still waiting, or we have to wait for Stevens Point to approve of it, but we figured they would because there are students that they didn't have in the program to begin with. And then the second item we had was a custodial supply bid approval, of which Ed talked to us about and showed us in the background is the bid results. And as usual, they bid it out to multiple people and then take the lowest bid for those supplies. And with that, our committee recommends approval for BS1 and BS2.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve business service 1 and 2 motions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
And then the balance of our meeting would have been a lot faster had we hadn't waited for the personal service people to come in, but we did. We had an
We were
update
doing a
on
thorough job.
our math expressions program through building blocks. We also had information about the rent for the building blocks program, which we did have some questions, of which we asked Dan to go back and check on some of the charges and the increases, and we're waiting to hear back on that. And then the second item was, which everybody heard in the board meeting, was the Veritime attendance management system. There was a presentation on that, and all of our questions have been finally answered as far as the merits and the costs involved and what it's going to overall save the district in the long run. And with that, I move to approve the balance of the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from the Business Service Committee meeting of August 4th, 2014. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, John. Next, we have Personnel Service Committee. Sandy.
Personnel Services Committee met at 6 p.m. on the dot. From that meeting, we have 5 consent agenda items, and they are as follows. Number 1, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 1 professional staff resignation pending receipt of $300 in liquidated damages. Secondly, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 1 professional staff resignation request pending receipt of $500 in liquidated damages. Third, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 2 support staff resignation requests. Fourth, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 3 professional staff appointments. And fifth, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 4 support staff appointments. Does anybody want anything held out?
I'll second this.
So we have motion and a second to approve PS 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
And with that, I move that the regular committee meeting minutes of August 4th, 2014, and then the special open and closed session committee meeting minutes of August 4th, 2014 be approved as printed.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second to approve the regular committee meeting minutes of August 4th, 2014, and the special open and closed session committee meeting minutes of August 4th, 2014. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Sandy. And our Ed Services report will be given by Mary tonight.
Okay, thanks, John. The Ed Services Committee met on Monday, August 4th. There were 2 consent agenda items. Does anyone want anyone held out, either one? Okay, then I would make a motion to approve ES1, which was the changes to Board Policy 347 Rule, Parents 1, guidelines for the control and maintenance of student records, and 347 Exhibit request to disclose directory information for first reading. And then ES2, which would be the releasing of all juniors and seniors at 12:30 on October 30th, 2014 for the administration of the WKCE to sophomores. And there's only a half a day needed since the WKCE testing only includes science and social studies this year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Educational Service Committee items ES1 and ES2. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
All right, then we had 3 updates. The first one was Business and Education, a partnership. Kathy Hens introduced Rick Murden, co-instructor of the Business and Education, a partnership class. Mr. Murden shared a handout that included a course evaluation summary that was taken by 23 teachers that participated in the class the week of June 23rd through the 27th, 2014. Teachers were represented from Wisconsin Rapids Public Schools, Port Edwards Public Schools, Emmanuel Lutheran, Assumption Catholic Schools, and Nakusa Public Schools. The handout also showed the 5-year career employment estimates for the Wisconsin Rapids area as shared by local businesses in the area of manufacturing, food processing, healthcare, IT, and agriculture. These employers project an estimated 1,500 new jobs over the next 5 years. Our next update was addressed the first Professional Development Day to be held on September 26, 2014. Kathy shared that Rick Wormley, noted speaker, author, and educational consultant, will be speaking to teachers the morning of the September 26th Professional Development Day. In the afternoon, he is available to work with smaller groups of teachers in breakout sessions. His presence in the district is very timely as the need for common assessments across grade levels and disciplines becomes more and more paramount for teachers. And our last update was the annual report on seclusion and restraint. Superintendent Dickman told us that Trudy DeSimons, Director of Public Services, was unable to attend the committee meeting, and she had asked if board members had any questions related to the report. And Sandy had asked about staff injuries. And with that, I move to accept the Ed Services Committee report of August 4th, 2014.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of the Ed Services Committee meeting of August 4th, 2014. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, we go on to agenda referrals or information requests. Anybody have anything tonight? Okay, we can move on to the legislative agenda.
Okay, there were only a few brief articles in the last legislative update, but I'll just share a couple of them. First of all, the primary elections are tomorrow. Remember, you can only vote for one political party. You can't cross over between the 2 parties. And I guess I'm just encouraging everybody to vote because it's our right and our responsibility. Also, there is a special study panel looking at possible changes in the tech college funding. Concerns about property taxes have prompted lawmakers to look at other ways to fund the state's 16 technical college districts, which encompass 48 campuses. As they look at funding changes, they're also considering changes that could reduce local control of technical schools. A special legislative council study committee is looking into both aspects of technical colleges. And the other one was about charter schools. 51 state charter schools received grants. State Superintendent Tony Evers this week announced the awards of grants totaling more than $8.1 million to support 51 charter schools in Wisconsin for the 2014-2015 school year. Funding for these charter schools awards is provided through a multi-year federal grant Wisconsin won in 2009 worth a total of $86 million. In 1993, Wisconsin became one of the first states to authorize the creation of charter schools, and our state has continually ranked in the top 10 states nationwide for the number of charter schools. 242 charter schools operated during the 2013-14 school year, serving 45,078 students. Charter schools are public schools and are accountable to the locally elected school board or authorizing agency that approved their charter contract. Charter schools must employ licensed teachers, involve parents, administer statewide tests, and comply with federal regulations. That's it.
Okay, thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
Next, we'll move on to bills.
Okay, I would make a motion that the bills be, the receipts be noted and the bills be paid for July, and also the July check register with the June books.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and a second to approval of the payment of the bills noted as well as the July check register from the June books. Could we please have roll call, Maureen?
Mr. Kreis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rayl?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Head?
Yes.
Mr. Bendel?
Yes.
Thank you, Maureen. Next, we can move on to new business. Item A, possible action on employee appointments, resignations, and retirement requests.
We have a couple of items that I handed a sheet out just before the meeting began. Two items that we would like to act on this evening. The first one listed is, unfortunately, we did receive a resignation request from Jason Jackson, who serves as our Native American Education Coordinator, but effective last week when he turned that in. So we would like to get the process going, looking at that position. Well, we would bring that forward as long as we had an item on the agenda this evening. And then secondly, would be an appointment for a new teaching position with the filling of an additional math interventionist opening that we had. A teacher from the elementary did post, was interviewed and selected for a transfer into that position, creating a vacancy. So we can go through a process here in the past few weeks to have that third grade position and be filled with Cassandra. Right, all that's listed here, so we were hoping to get her approval for hire so we can move forward with that position as well.
I would move the approval of Jason Jackson for the approval of the resignation and the appointment of Cassandra Magel.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve the resignation request from Jason Jackson and the staff appointment request for Cassandra Magel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next item is possible action to approve the purchase of Veritime electronic time tracking and processing software. Guessing, Dan, do you have any more to add to that beyond what we had last week?
No, I think she did a nice presentation. If there's any questions,
No, I think now that we got everything in the row that we were looking for, because there were some loose questions after the last time was brought through the Business Services Committee. I would be happy to make a motion for the approval of the Veritime attendance management system purchase.
Second.
Okay, motion.
Hold it. Do we have a dollar amount on that? I do somewhere.
Is there a dollar amount on that, Dan?
Has it changed at all from?
No, it's right here.
Okay.
Annual subscription fee of $8,500 with a one-time implementation fee of $3,100 and the original equipment purchase of $600 for the barcode scanners. Got that, Mary?
I know what's in those minutes.
Okay, got it right here.
Thank you.
Sandy's question.
John, can you review for us? I know that this has come to your committee several times and you've sent it back and you've had presentations so that
Yep.
it doesn't look like it's coming here for the first time. We're saying A-OK. Can you just kind of?
Yeah, as far as the first time it came through, it was very vague, and we didn't, we questioned the cost figures because we already use ASOP, which is a sister program to this, and Veritime and ASOP kind of go hand in hand. So when we saw the original pricing of it, we didn't think it was justifiable to pay that kind of money for it, and plus we didn't have any background or any information as far as what it would cost, what it might be to be implemented. So I kicked it back right away for Dan and his group to come back with some more numbers. And in the meantime, we asked them to check with the vendor, saying that we're already using ASOP. Why are we getting charged what we thought was more than overcharged basically for the software purchases? So they did go back. They did come back and they sharpened their pencil and they got us a much better price. Which was more palatable, but then we still had some cost issues that we weren't sure of, which one of them would have been implementation of what we needed, whether we had to go out and buy time clocks, whether we had to buy what we needed, and what that cost would be. And then we still wanted to see what kind of cost we are really kind of incurring now so that we can justify. Because this is a purchase of stuff that isn't directly related to students. So when you have those kind of purchases, you kind of want to look at and make sure that you're purchasing something that's needed when you're making those kind of dollar decisions. And so we sent it back, and then the presentation given at our last committee meeting answered all those questions, plus showed us some more benefits that we really didn't think about with the new Healthcare Act and all the reporting needed to find out whether you're 30 hours, if you're more or less than 30 hours, whether an employee would then get benefits or doesn't get benefits, and all of that is in this program, which wasn't really brought to light, but there are a lot of reporting functions that are going to be required with the new Affordable Health Care Act, which I'm not quite sure how affordable that is yet, but that's one of the things that kind of helped with the decision-making process and to show that we do really need this type of thing. The other part of it is it does hold accountable, and we do have ways of tracking absences now through ASOP with timesheets, and it's a much easier approval method for supervisors and building principals as far as taking approval of timesheets and that type of action that did take quite a bit of their time, and it was kind of a tedious thing because it was repetitious, plus it had to be done every week with multiple people. So it will free up time, not that they had time to free, but it'll give us some other time to explain or to do some other tasks that the mandates that we get have to be done. So
There's
does that answer your question?
one concern that I had was that it be backed up so that if we had to find information there, it would be available. They said that they could do that. The other thing is it should save us money because it will catch those things that most businesses don't catch. And if you have something that's accurate and responds well and is what they recommend, I think it's worth going along with it.
Yeah, we need a lot of cases of records stored in the basement too.
I was gonna say, that's the other thing, is it isn't stored on our system, it's stored on Veritime system. So we have access to it, and it's backed up by them, and they keep the backup records and all of the documents that are needed to make it legal.
Okay, Green, could you please read the motion back so I understand what it is?
Let's do it, because that was the motion.
Okay, it was a motion to approve the Veritime Attendance Management Software System at an annual subscription fee cost of $8,500, a one-time implementation fee of $3,100, and a $600 fee for barcode scanner equipment.
I think the $600 was included in the $3,100 in the background. So that's why I want to make sure we had it right. Because what it says on the background is one-time cost of $3,100 for implementation, configuration, training, scanners, and barcode software, and an annual subscription fee of $8,500.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can we have roll call on that, please, Marie?
Mr. Cranes?
Yes.
Mrs. Rayo?
Yes.
Mrs. Hett?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Bembo?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And last, we have possible action to approve a tentative agreement reached with the custodial maintenance and computer technicians ASME Local 1075 bargaining units.
We did have a bargaining session with the custodial group last week, in which we came up with a tentative agreement on an increase for that group, which would be a 1.46, which is the current CPI figure. And we wanted to bring that forward to the board for approval by the board. The other group is indicating approval of that tentative agreement. One of the details that I would add is that includes a percent increase per employee based on their current wages.
And I thought the discussions went well. I mean, we can't do what we want to do, obviously, in the environment we live in, so we have to do what's mandated. But it seemed that the gentleman understood problems we're facing, and we're accepting of that, and we move forward. They're good people doing many times thankless jobs, so they know our appreciation.
Well, then I'd make a motion to approve the tentative agreement reached with the custodial maintenance computer technicians, local 1075 bargaining unit.
Second.
Okay, motion a second to approve the tentative agreement reached with custodial maintenance and computer techs, asks me local 1075, which calls for a 1.46% increase. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And calendar is set out for August.
John, before I go too far, I wondered if Trudy had anything about seclusion and restraint that she wanted to
May I
give
just,
us
may I just
today.
ask one question about that motion? Did you want that amount in the motion, the 1.46% in the motion?
That's the CPI, correct? So, yeah.
Okay. Rather than just say tentative agreement, you want that in there?
That's what we bargained, correct? I think probably should show that, right? Thanks.
Did you have something to add, Ryan?
No, I think what she meant is that the motion did not say
Right.
1.46.
We should say it.
Yeah, we're saying add it in.
1.46 in the
Yeah.
motion.
Right, I'd
wrote
heard you added in at the end.
I
Yeah.
read it back with it in there, John didn't say that.
I'd make that motion.
Second it.
Thanks. Thanks for keeping us on the straight and narrow, by the way.
Just
ahead,
wondered
Trudy.
whether Trudy had anything to add with seclusion and restraint, that she wasn't here to give us.
Well, I would have not gone into a lot of detail like I did in the year before, basically because if you report out by buildings or in smaller units, you run the risk of identifying or having somebody personally identify possibly a student that might be in that group. I've attended some legal sessions at a conference where the attorney said the questions that were asked were these 3 questions, and we are doing our due diligence by answering those questions, but by going beyond, we do run the risk of identifying when we have smaller numbers of students. We keep training, we stress that that's always a last resort, but the number of students coming in with behaviors that may lead to seclusion and restraint has not dropped. And we're seeing an awful lot more coming in to the early, like 4K and kindergarten years coming up. We had 47 referrals from birth to 3 this past school year. Normally we run about 9 to 12. So it's,
It isn't getting any easier. It isn't getting any easier.
no. You know, we get assistance from our school liaison officers when necessary, but don't like to rely on law enforcement in that case either, because they're not always around and the students attend on a daily basis, so they're really working through individual cases. We've got a lot of meetings being held in some cases, and teachers are trying a lot of things, counselors, principals.
What protection does staff have when they have to make a decision in a situation like that? Sometimes you get angry, sometimes you get frustrated, and you have to be under control, and yet sometimes you have to protect the other students. So what protection do they have when things happen and they have to stop them?
We tell them in PROACT that if the situation is that bad, that they should clear the classroom of all of the other students and not worry so much about stuff as people's health and safety. And then if it's to that point where it's not even safe for a teacher to intervene, or even a pair of trained individuals, that we just call law enforcement to try to come in. You have to assess the situation for what it is. You're no good to anybody else, any of those other students, if you or even a pair of you enter a situation that you probably should have not and get hurt. Then nobody's left to take care of or to protect the other kids. And they're professionals, they have good judgment. I've not seen anybody, get terribly out of line with that. And the courts will vary how they would handle things based on the age of the student and how much they actually should have known better. Like that legal responsibility of kids under 7, when things happen, they really don't have the mental capacity to know what the consequences could be, like riding their bike out into a road and getting hit, for example. So there's not much in court yet. Parents have been very, very good about the reported cases. We're just really working hard with it.
I would say law enforcement's been extremely supportive.
Oh, absolutely.
I talk regularly with them just to make sure that we're not over calling, and they have not had that sense at all.
And it's not unique to our district. I mean, the increase has been, saw an article in one of the publications that we get online, and it talked about that because the reporting session was coming up, but they said somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 65% of the schools had increases. That report, or in the state, had increases in that type of behavior.
Sandy wondered about injuries to staff people. I think it's a good question.
Yes, and she wondered about those last year, and Deb started looking those up, and exactly what all came into place because we were changing the way they were reported, and it was getting not hard to track, but hard to follow what was reported before, what wasn't reported before. We have a lot more reports because of the way it's reported. The actual number of injuries, probably about the same. Multiple with
I think we actually saw a decrease this year compared to last year, but there was a spike when seclusion, it just happened to coincide, as Trudy said, the way we were reporting. All staff now have to call a particular phone number, even if they just get a bruise, and in the past, they weren't necessarily reporting a bruise, for example. So I think the reporting, it may have just coincided with when seclusion and restraint initially took place, but it's something we're certainly going to keep an eye on, especially with referrals increasing.
Well, I don't like those types of any kind of injury, so however we can prevent them. I did find out from Fred at CISA 5, there's only one company in the entire world that makes and sells protective gear for the arms and the neck to prevent biting. And I do have the name and the address of the company, should it?
Wow. On that note, thanks, Trudy. If we look forward on our calendar, please make a note that on Thursday, the 21st, we have new teacher luncheon at 11:30. And on Tuesday, the 26th, we have the all-staff program in the PAC at 8:30 a.m., which I think is preceded by breakfast that starts at 7:30. So put that on your calendars if you can make it. And I guess with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.